If you go through these periods of mom life that just feel harder than they should be, and you can't really put your finger on why they are so hard to begin with, this week's episode is going to break down for you exactly why we go through these periods, why they don't mean that you're a bad mom, and also provides the practical strategies that you can put into place to help you move through these periods of time that really are so hard. If that's what you need more of in your life today, you're in the right place. Let's simplify things together. If life has been dragging more than usual lately and you just feel like you're trying to move through mud, this episode is all focused on not just how to move through that feeling, but actually how to sit with it, how to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that we have to be okay with life being hard. What I am saying though is that sometimes we're so quick to try to get out of a period of time that is harder than it should be. And the thing I've learned the most that I want to walk us through today is that rather than trying to move through it and force our way forward, sometimes the quickest way to move through that time is to try to let go of the control, see where that period is meant to take you, and see how things are meant to play out. Because more often than not, it's not necessarily that I've found that I'm in the middle of learning a lesson, but there usually is something going on for me personally when life is feeling extra heavy and hard, where I've learned that I've just got to kind of sit back and take the role of the observer rather than continuing to try to be in control, because there's something about me trying to control the situation that's actually preventing my forward progress. There's something that I need to learn or understand underneath it all. And I'm only going to do that if I take a step back and just watch and see what's happening in my own life. And I think the reason that feels so counterintuitive right now is largely due to the fact that our world right now is so noisy. I mean, we are constantly inundated with inputs that it's hard to kind of close ourselves off to all those inputs, to all the information, to all the outside advice and pressure. I know that I've really been feeling this for the past few weeks, and that's not typically how I move through life. I'm not someone who's usually feeling like it's hard to move through my day, but I've really felt it. And I feel like if I'm feeling it, chances are you might be too. And if not, maybe this is something that you can hear today so that the next time you find yourself having those days where it's just a total drain, you'll already recognize oh, this is what Erin was talking about. This is kind of the direction I'm going to take and experiment with and be curious about and see how it plays out differently, because this is maybe one of the first few times where I've been through a period like this where I've actually been okay with it. I've just kind of had to sit back and be like, I know that if I try to force my way out of this, it's actually going to prolong the experience. So I'm just going to take a lot of extra deep breaths. I'm going to take it extra slow. And I want to walk you through what that has kind of looked like in my own experience. Hopefully help to normalize that this is a process that we all go through. And it's one that, yes, it can be uncomfortable. And it's one that I know that I always look back on in the end and say, wow, I'm really happy that I took this approach, because I feel a lot more sturdy, a lot more confident moving forward because of whatever transformation or learning or even undoing that I've had to go through in that period. And here's the thing that I think I've struggled with the most when I go through times like this. When I am really struggling to move through my day and I'm just dragging, a lot of self-doubt and frustration crop up for me. I always seem to find a way to assign meaning about myself because of the way I'm feeling. So I'm having a hard time, getting through the laundry, getting through the dishes, get it together. These are things that you have done every day for at least the last 10 years. I mean, I've even just my whole adult life, I've been doing it, right? But I sit here and I tell myself, get it together. Why can't you even do the simplest things? Why can't you stay on top of the laundry? Why is it so piled up? And I allow for myself to kind of get in this negative feedback loop about myself, right? So that I'm having a hard time and I recognize that. But instead of showing up for myself with some compassion and some kindness, I somehow allow myself to sometimes get in just this really negative loop of deciding like, ooh, this means that I'm not good enough, right? It's not even that I'm not good enough. Like, I know I'm a good person and I know I'm a good mom. But when you feel like you can't shake it and you can't snap out of it, and you know that life is moving forward, whether you're ready to move forward with it or not, you really can feel that tension between what's expected and the level at which you're showing up. And I think that that's what makes it hardest of all. But the longer that I've sat in this particular period, the more I've come to realize that this has actually nothing to do about me. I mean, it does. I'm here, I'm living it, but it is not in any way, shape, or form a measurement of my effectiveness. All it is my internal system cueing me and telling me like, something's different here. And I feel like more than anything, we should be proud of ourselves when we really are that tuned in and we realize like, okay, something's off. Like I'm not myself. Like I am struggling to get through the most mundane tasks that should just be second nature at this point, and I should just be cranking through it, but I'm not. So that's telling me something's off, right? It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It's not anything that I've got to shake. And it's definitely not like a life sentence or determination of who I am. So in those moments when we recognize that, okay, something's off, I'm not really myself, what could be at play here? First, I think a lot of us, especially as moms, because we have to be so emotionally available, especially to our families, so many of us absorb the emotions and the feelings of everyone around us. So you might be someone who really picks up on other people's strained energy, or if they are in a heightened mood, you really feel that. And it's easy to mistake it as something that we own and that is ours, when in reality, we're taking on like a sponge what everyone else is putting out there. And I would even say with that, like I know one of my kids has been incredibly emotional, needing a lot of extra hugs, needing a lot of extra support, and hasn't been sleeping well. And finally, after several years of kind of going through this cyclically, I've started to realize this is their pattern when they are going through a developmental burst. And it's exhausting. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It takes a lot out of me to be able to stay grounded and calm and recognize it for what it is, rather than feeling like, oh my gosh, like I don't have the capacity to take on your neediness right now, right? Like, 'cause sometimes we're just so like, go, go, go in our everyday lives that it's like the last thing I have time for is a kid who's like constantly melting down and clinging to me, right? Like you just kind of want to move through that. It's not that you don't care about your child. You just understand that kind of like push and pull that you're really feeling. And it just gets intensified sometimes by things that our kids are going through. So be aware too, like it definitely may not even be something that is happening inside of you. It's more that you are picking up on everything that's happening in the spaces around you that really just feel really magnified on an internal level. But with that said, you may also find that you are going through something personally. It would be naive of me to sit here and say like, no, it's never you. It's always something on the outside, because that's definitely not true. I mean, we are constantly up-leveling ourselves and thinking about, well, how can I be better? How can I be truer to myself? How can I show up in my everyday life as the person I want to be? And so with that desire for personal growth does come change. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for all that reflection and that work that goes into that process. And there are times where we really are hitting a point where we're reaching an up level. But with that comes a lot of shedding, and a lot of that happens energetically. There are times where I can feel like I've had a lot of internal realizations, a lot of aha moments about myself, and then I feel like emotionally, like energetically drained. And I really believe it's like this release from our nervous system of like, I get that part of myself now, or oh, I really understand that. Let me get rid of that. And it's really just a period of time where your body is just processing all that old energy out. And I think it's okay to sit with and recognize like, all right, this is just one of the moments where I am going through a personal transformation. And part of that means that I might feel energetically slower because a lot goes into clearing all that old energy, right? And also, let's not forget that there can be so much happening astrologically that can really impact us as humans. I mean, I used to think that that was total quackery until I started teaching. And I will tell you what, it got to a point where I could just take in the energy of my classroom and pretty much know immediately that there was a full moon. And I don't even know how it all works. I'm not big into astrology, but I do know that there can be these real impacts from what is happening astrologically that can really stir up a lot, not just inside of us, but the people around us. And then as we interact with one another, it can just really fuel that fire and that tension. For example, March is usually the month where I get like the most stuff done. Yeah, we have spring break, but otherwise the kids are pretty much in school. Like we don't have a lot of sports going on. Like that is my month where I get a lot done. This past March was so hard for me to get anything done. I really struggled to get through it and get through it productively. But then I go and I'll watch a reel about what the astrology is at the moment. And like we just went through like a double retrograde and then a full moon. It's the energetic new year. Like you look at, okay, well, what's the bigger universal picture here? A lot. And there was a lot going on in March. It's not that you have to live your life by things like astrology, but if there are ways that can just help you get a little bit more clarity around like, well, what is like the collective going through energetically speaking? Because again, you might be picking up on that or going through it yourself. And it just helps take some of that personal pressure and guilt that I think we tend to put on ourselves and just helps contextualize what we're going through a little bit better. And then we also take into consideration like, okay, so it could be any of these things that are happening, something internally or externally that I'm picking up on. I think that more than anything, I've learned like how grateful I am that my nervous system is so tuned in to what is going on, right? And I'm able to then consciously realize something's off. I think that recognizing though that something feels off doesn't mean that there's something wrong. Sometimes it's just your signal that you've got to slow down and move through that energy that your nervous system is trying to process. You know, we just got a puppy a few months ago and I've been taking him on walks a couple times a day. And anytime he sees a squirrel or he sees a bird or there's a sound that surprises him and he experiences this jolt of energy that really triggers his nervous system, once that moment is over, he does a full body shake. He just shakes that energy out. And it's just a natural part of how dogs are adapted to regulate their own nervous system. We unfortunately do not just inherently do that. And our nervous system does tend to really hold on to the energy until we intentionally choose to move it out and move it through and we get regulated again. So just know when you are feeling that tension, it's not meant to be something bad, but it is meant to be your internal notification system, right? Of like, hey, we've got to move through something here. Like, let's get back to our baseline. Then we can start moving forward. And I think that that's what's hard about trying to push through these hard times. You're trying to do it with a dysregulated nervous system. And that's just why it makes it so much harder to finally get that breakthrough. So instead, by slowing down, you're able to tune in, get clear on what's yours, what's not, how to move through it, what you can do to regulate your nervous system, and things just start to click into place so much more easily as a result. It is okay to have the calm, knowing inner confidence to say, this is what I need right now. And I don't have to be able to explain it to anybody else. In fact, I don't even need to fully understand it myself. Knowing that I need to slow down and knowing that I need to take care of myself in this moment to be able to move through this time that's harder is all I need to give myself permission to slow down. And slowing down is going to look different for all of us, depending on what our own lifestyles are, our family dynamics, what our roles are in everyday life, and even from like season to season in our lives, that is going to shift and change. So what I think is important in those moments when you're feeling like, okay, I know something's off, I know I need to slow down, but I'm really struggling to do that without feeling guilty or feeling like I have to explain myself to somebody else, you can ask yourself questions like, where can I slow down? You probably don't have the luxury of slowing down every aspect of your life, but you do have flexibility to slow down in some areas more than others. Try to pinpoint where those are for you at that point in time. How can sitting with this heaviness help to bring some clarity about it? I think that alone gives us that permission we need of like, oh yeah, that is why I need to slow down, right? And then the thing that I like to do is really give myself permission to temporarily lower my expectations of myself. It doesn't mean that, just because I've been struggling to keep up with daily housework, like, okay, so things aren't up to the standard I would usually like them to be. I recognize this is not a forever thing. This is temporary. So if I can be okay with knowing like, all right, I'm going through something right now, I'm trying to process something, I got to just slow down in order to move through it. What can I do to take it easier? Maybe it means like my house is not as put together as I would normally like it to be, and learning to be okay with that. And also recognizing like, what can I say no to right now? It's okay to recognize like, yeah, normally in a different situation, I would be saying yes to this, but right now I know I can't take that on top of everything else that I have going on right now. It's okay to say no without any guilt around that, right? When you understand that no means you are saying yes to focusing in on what really needs your time and attention at this given moment. So I don't want you to feel guilty about slowing down. I don't want you to feel guilty about temporarily lowering your expectations. And I don't want you to feel guilty about saying no. Just remember, you eventually do get to move through this heaviness. It does not last forever. This is something that is here ultimately to help you learn yourself, get to know yourself better. And like, what a gift. It's so cool to see once you're on the other side of it, like how you just approach any given situation that you were processing at the time, like how you approach that differently moving forward. I mean, this is a little meta, but like in and of itself, me talking about this topic here today, like I would not have been having this conversation with you 2 years ago, like hands down would not have. I would have been telling you like, here are the strategies you need. Here's how you're going to work through this. We aren't doing that. We're not doing that. The only reason I can say like, that is not the way to do it is by learning through my own mistakes of like, that is not how to do it. And learning like by sitting with this thing that was hard, here's what I've learned from it. Here's how I'm able to then ride these waves more easily when they do come. And I can do it with more confidence and not be stressing myself out or worrying about what it means about me as a person. Right? So I hope that this is a perspective shift that is helpful to you, one that is reassuring. And I, more than anything, want you to know that like you have full permission to approach those periods of time in whatever way makes the most sense for you. I'm sharing what's worked for me in case it helps you, or in case it spurs another idea that maybe I haven't even thought of, but works really well for you. Like take that and run with it. This isn't about me telling you how to do things. It's more about let's have the conversation around what could work and be curious about giving it a try, because you never know how that could completely transform the way you're experiencing your everyday life. If you want more practical ways to move through these times that do feel tougher, and you do want to feel more confident in slowing down when life is asking that of you, I'm going to link to my 15-day audio challenge called Claim Your Calm. I just walk you through such simple practices that you could use in the moment, or you can tap back into later when you're having these times where you know you've got to slow down and you want life to feel calmer. That is what Claim Your Calm is there for. You guys, it's $25 and you have it for life. So yes, it's a 15-day challenge because you get 15 days of emails, but you also get access to the library of all 15 days, all 15 strategies, everything you need at your fingertips, so that when the needs continue to arise over time, you can come back to that challenge time and time again. So I can't recommend that enough. Please be sure to go check it out in my shop. Again, I will link to it in the episode notes. And if today's episode has you feeling optimistic about moving through these periods of time that just feel hard, please share with me as a comment on Spotify or a show review on Apple Podcasts. Just visit the podcast homepage on Apple, scroll down to the bottom and add your review there to share with me what part about the episode was your aha moment, or maybe the permission slip that you needed to hear in order to finally let go of just all the pressure that so many of us take on. It's very real. And so if another mom can see how this episode has helped you, it can help her feel more confident in trying the ideas that she hears here as well. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your thoughts with the Mom Life Handbook community. That's all for this week. I'm wishing you the greatest sense of calm in the week ahead, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.